Did the internet give us another day? What's the internet saying? Are they going to let us exist? Is everything okay? All right, it's looking like we're on, but you know me, until I see it, it's not real. Until I see it, it is not real. It looks like I'm seeing it. Oh, I'm seeing it, and it is good. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. We're here. What's up, everybody? Good afternoon to all my East Coasters. Hope everything's going well. Good morning. If you're in my coast, West Coast, good morning. Hope you had a great breakfast. Good evening for everyone in an evening time zone. And how is the future? Australia, New Zealand, you're in the future. Can you figure out climate change for the rest of us? Please, we're counting on you. No pressure. Hope everyone is well. Shout out to everyone who makes this show possible. Our friends over at CT.com, ZHITEA.com. Their tea kind of rules. You can get it wholesale now because of the pandemic. Also, our friends over at triageoil.com, TRIAGE oil.com. Trendy name, makes topical pain oil for your body that you rub. I use it on my neck. And he also educates the public on cannabis issues. And our friends over at Indie Left. Indie Left is the only place to find all the articles and vids from all your favorite outlets. I'm there. It gets updated twice a day. And to learn more and to subscribe to all of their podcasts and to join their Discord community, you can go to independentleft.media. And also, I wrote their theme song. So that theme song you hear from them is me. Without further ado, I'm so excited to talk to my guest today. He is a part-time Los Angeles Charger, but a full-time advocate for Medicare for All. Please welcome to the show, Justin Jackson. Justin, how are you, buddy?
Good. Thanks for having me on, Ron. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. And congrats on the season. I don't follow the NFL a whole lot. We'll talk about that some later on, but congrats on the season. And I saw some good highlights from you. So I know
we made it through, man. We made it through. This year was weird with COVID and everything, and just everything going on in the world, having to play, try and play at the top, top of your level. So we got through it, and hopefully looking forward to next year. Hopefully, maybe if we can get COVID under control, but shoot, who knows at this point?
Jeez. Well, how different was it with like no one in the stands? Was it like completely?
It's weird, man. It's
really
weird. Like there was, I think, 3 or 4 games we played where there was like maybe like 20% capacity, and just the difference it made just having like a few thousand people there, like especially that last game, Kansas City, like they had like probably like, I don't know, less than 10,000 people in the stadium, but it was like the whole atmosphere changes. So it's weird, man. You hear everything, like you can hear the sideline. You just hear everything is weird,
So, I mean, I guess you kind of feed off the energy, even if you're not the home team. You're not the team that they're generally rooting for if it's an away game, but.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's more fun on the road a lot of times because it's like, especially when you're on offense at home, it's not really loud. But when you're on offense on the road, it's like you can't even I'll be standing next to the quarterback and I can barely hear him. It's that loud. But it just gets you in that mood and just in the atmosphere, and it makes you play. Just makes you play better.
Nice. So I actually saw a tweet from you first this morning. We're going to talk about what's going on. If you're thinking GameStop, Wall Street, what the hell? We're about to break it down for you. And I saw your tweet this morning. It was one of the first things I woke up to. And I'll give a shout out to a friend of the show who's also been on the show, Zach Funk, very funny comedian. Last night, he tagged me in a post and he's like, Ron, you got to look into this. And I mean, I'll be honest with you, Justin, it was late at night. I just partook in some cannabis. I was about to go to bed. And I just see this thing and it just says GameStop and stocks. And I'm like, later.
Yeah, me too. I was on the same way.
I didn't know what it was. I see GameStop and I'm like, whatever. Then I wake up this morning, I see your tweet and I see some other tweets and I'm like, what is going on? And I look into it and I'll ask you this first before we break it down for everyone. How hard did you laugh at all this?
Oh man, it's so funny, and the meltdown from all these rich billionaire elite, people, hedge fund managers that are shorting stuff. Like there's no sympathy out there for these people, and that's what's funny about it. It's like they want sympathy. It's like no one has sympathy for you. You're a hedge fund. You guys get rich off of every crisis. Like no one has any sympathy for you. So it's like. It's honestly fun that we can be back to like the left, like making fun of the elites, right? Like we're not like fighting each other and all this type of stuff. We're just all together like shitting on elites, and that's That's the most fun part about it all.
We're just trying to be honest white-collar criminals, and these subredditors are being mean to us.
They're being mean, and we need the government to help us from this one subreddit. Like, it's hilarious, honestly. But it's a show of power, though. It's a show of power,
right? All right, so let's break it down, because this is, this isn't something that's in the common vernacular. I watched a few videos on it to kind of get a better grasp on it myself. So here's a very basic nuts and bolts. This is what's happening. So in Wall Street, there's a thing called short selling, which is where somebody will borrow stocks. So they didn't actually pay for them. They just borrowed it. Then they sell it right away. And what they're doing is they're betting on the stock to fail. So we'll use me as an example. All right, I'm a random dude, and I borrow a stock for $10, and I immediately sell it for $10 because what I'm hoping happens is that stock goes down, and it goes down to like $1, and then I say, oh, I better pay for what I borrowed, but I only have to pay $1 now because the stock's worth $1. So I sold it for 10, paid off my loan for $1. So I made $9. That's pretty cool, and I can save up for my Justin Jackson jersey, whatever it is I'm looking to do. Right? I made $9. But let's say this is a big gamble, because let's say the stock actually goes up. Well, then I have to maybe lose some money. Maybe it goes up to $15, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna lose $5 on this. And now I have an advisor typically who's in my ear about all this, because he's like, Ron Placone, $10 stock. He's a big spender. He's a worthwhile client, and he's advising me, and he's saying, okay, you better sell here. It's you're gonna lose $5, but that's the name of the game. Now, let's say a big group of subredditors, or whoever they are, they catch on to my grift, and they know what I'm doing in this particular moment. They know it's something that goes on, but they catch me directly, and they say, fuck this guy's $10, and they all buy the stock, and that causes the price to go up because everyone's wanting to buy it. There's only stocks available. Price goes up. If no one wants it, price goes down. So they buy all this stock. It goes way up, and one morning, all of a sudden, this stock that I unloaded for $10 and haven't actually paid off what I borrowed yet, now it's worth $100, and I'm out $90, and my advisor couldn't have done anything about it because we all woke up to this news. That's what happened today, essentially. An angry Bob on Reddit. Here's the headline.
Angry Bob.
Yeah. So a subreddit group called Wall Street Buyers, they caught people doing this with GameStop, but it wasn't just one dude with $10. It was all these hedge fund managers, as you pointed out, Justin, and they bet a lot. So they got caught because now there's more tools available for people who aren't billionaires, basically. There's the Robinhood app and all these other things. I don't know all the bells and whistles of what's involved with that. Do you invest at all? Like, are you hip to that world? Or
no, I'm not. I remember when cryptos were going crazy and I was in college, a lot of my teammates downloaded that Robinhood app. So that's really the only like knowledge I really have of that, because I don't do any like personal trading of stocks like that daily. I don't really do that. So I don't know much about it, but yeah, that's pretty much my extent of knowledge on it.
Yeah, I mean, me too. So like, I'm just a very simple, this is what happened. So this subreddit group got together, and they saw people doing this, and these were hedge fund managers basically putting it all into GameStop, thinking GameStop's going to fail because, I mean, look, this is GameStop. I've heard it described as this, and I think this is very fair. It is the Blockbuster video for video games.
Yes, 100%.
Right. So that are you a gamer at all? Are you hip to that?
I when I was younger, I was a huge gamer, and GameStop, that's where I went. So but I know it's because you can download games straight off of the internet now. It's a lot less, like you said, it's like Blockbuster. You can just pretty much download it straight to your console. You don't need to go to GameStop anymore to get it.
I was always the kid who was the most popular guy to play video games with, because I was the kid. Video games always, even at a young age, for some reason, gave me a headache. I couldn't do it. It would give me a migraine. So I was always the kid who was happy to just sit and watch and talk to his friends. So I was everybody's best friend, because they're like, Ron never wants to play.
Yeah, you never taken up a spot.
I never took up a spot. So when it was like just 2-player only, I I would advise on strategy. You know, if it was, especially if it was like a sports game, I'd be like, you should, you know, put in a new pitcher or run the ball or whatever. But, you know, I never wanted to play. So I was everybody's best friend. They're like, Ron's just happy to just be hanging out with people. He doesn't ever said why I didn't want to play. They always just thought I was weird and didn't want to play.
I mean, that's okay though. Is you're in there, you're chilling, hanging out with everybody, but you're also not taking up the spot. So,
that's right.
It's not a bad spot position, like you said. Everyone likes it because of it.
So this subreddit group called Wall Street Buyers, they all got together and they realized these people were doing this. These hedge fund managers were just putting all this money. So GameStop stock was about $2.50 a share about a year ago. Check this out. This is what it's at right now. This is in real time. It's at $325. So all these people who made these bets, like we talked about in the scenario, they wake up one morning and all of a sudden they got to pay what they borrowed. And now it's at 323.87 cents. So you can watch it in real time, but it's up well over 100%. So basically they're screwed. Oh, and if you'll notice this, I'm not a financial expert. Neither is Justin. Neither of us are stock market people. But you notice a lot of stuff is going down because, you know, one part of Wall Street that I think is pretty common vernacular, confidence. And a lot of people don't have confidence right now because a bunch of folks on Reddit just made life a big headache for a bunch of hedge fund people. And if they can do this, it will. Holy shit.
It's scalable. And I think one thing that's funny is that, you know, all these people are claiming it's market manipulation when the same hedge fund people will go on a CNBC or something and scream that they're shorting the stock and make the stock plummet so they can make money, which is rank market manipulation. They do the same thing. They're just mad that someone did it to them and now they're suffering because of it. That's one thing. Another thing is, I mean, that's like you said, that's all the stock market is confidence, right? So like, why did the Fed prop up at the beginning of this pandemic, prop up the stock market with all this money, right? Is to make sure that people don't start selling off their stock and that the stock market doesn't plunge. So when it is socialism for these corporations, right? So that they can maintain confidence in the stock market. And that's why you see the stock market ascending as we're essentially in a depression, right? And so if they can do this, I mean, that's why I tweeted, like, this is almost like a digital age strike, right? Because it's like, if they can do this and they're like, oh, we're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep doing this until you give us X, Y, and Z. You see what I'm saying? Like, they should be making some demand, but like, I mean, obviously it's not organized right now. But
yeah, I don't know a whole lot about that
man.
subreddit. Yeah, but I mean, I guess the one thing we do know is it's at least one of the headlines I read, it's generally like millennials and Z that's involved in this subreddit that kind of collaborated together to make this happen. And it's and you tweeted this too, and this is another interesting part of all this is there's already been grumblings about these people, these hedge fund people who lost everything by their own gambling, getting a bailout. There's already grumblings of that. And I think as of the recording of this, nothing's been determined there. But if they do,
So it'll be coming soon.
Right. Well, that's the thing. And first of all, here's a couple things. Keep your eye out for what they try to distract us about. Because if they do this, they are going to want a public not paying attention. There's going to be something else. And now that Trump's not tweeting and he's not president, I don't know what that something is going to be for them. But they're going to have to find something.
Oh, yeah. And then they'll do it in the dark of night before you get your COVID check.
Oh, yeah. Before you're awake, it'll be in a bill that's 5,000 pages that nobody's actually read, and they'll just push it through. Meanwhile, they're telling you that they can't manage $1,400. Which, by the way, isn't the 2,000 they promised you.
Right, exactly.
Oh, this is but you know what? This is there is some poetic justice here.
It is, and it's really important because it shows that once you disrupt capital, and I mean, Wall Street is capital, right? It's like the quintessential, like symbolic capital, and obviously not symbolic, very literally capital. And if you disrupt that, like, it's things can change quickly. A lot, like you see BLM protest all summer, right? We're protesting all summer, thousands and hundreds of thousands of people across the country. What did we get legislatively that changed? Nothing,
Mm-hmm.
right? But when all these, when Wall Street was failing and all these corporations were going under, what did they get within 2 weeks? Trillions of dollars, right?
Trillions.
So when you disrupt capital, that's when things change quickly. And I think that's something that this, is very telling, and it shows that.
Well, and it also speaks to the complete unsustainability of our system. I mean, it's so interesting. You can read, like you read a philosopher like Proudhon or anyone like that. They warned against ever creating anything like Wall Street. They did not use the word Wall Street because it wasn't a thing. But what they did say was that you should never have a scenario where you're putting capital on top of capital and you're just relying on other capital. That's going to eat itself. And don't do that ever. What does that sound like? That's Wall Street. That's what Wall Street is. And because of all the bullshit that we just described in my, $10 scenario, which of course the numbers are way higher. That's just an example for simplicity's sake. All of that bullshit does generate a bunch of capital. And what do these hedge fund people use to manipulate all this bullshit? Your money, our money, the public's money. Every single dollar can be traced back to the public's money, and Wall Street is worth about a quadrillion. A quadrillion. Can you? I wouldn't be able to write that number right now if somebody asked me to. I know it's a thing because I know that's what Wall Street is potentially worth, a quadrillion, which means giving us all a UBI during a pandemic, actually looking out for people during a pandemic. It would be like if you and I were in Santa Monica hanging out, and I took my finger and licked it and put it in the sand and walked away with it. The amount of sand that I took from that coastline would be like giving everybody a UBI for all of what Wall Street's worth. And that's what our government's telling us they just can't do. They just can't do it.
We can't afford it. We can't afford this. We can't afford that. That's all they ever parrot out. But watch them afford this bailout they about to get these hedge fund managers.
So let's talk about you. I wanted to spend a lot of this time talking about you and your story, because you are using your platform as an NFL player to really promote some amazing things, and Medicare for All being one of those things. And on the Force the Vote effort, I learned about your story. Can you share that? I mean, I thought your video was incredibly powerful. Can you summarize that again for anyone who may not have seen it?
Yeah, so my mom passed away from breast cancer when I was 3. And obviously, being that young, I don't have pretty much any. I have a few memories, but, sparse memories, if that. But once I got older and kind of was introduced into the lefty space and started thinking more critically about these things, I wanted to ask my family about kind of that time in our lives, because I know obviously cancer treatment can be very, very expensive. So on top of all the obviously just emotional trauma that my family is going through, I wanted to know about our financial situation, because we've always been middle class. Like my dad's from Detroit, moved to Chicago when he was 18, still paying off his student loans.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Chicago. I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago.
Nice.
So yeah, my dad moved out here and then ended up starting a family out here, or not out here. I'm in California now, but out in Illinois. And so we weren't like, we were very solidly, like I would say, like in the middle class, like very middle class. And so I know that even if you're in the middle class in our country, if you have some type of healthcare emergency, it can completely financially bankrupt you, even after all the hard work you've done, especially someone like my dad, starting in the inner city of Detroit and actually being able to move out, of that kind of violent situation and kind of decrepit city to an actual, like a suburb where, I could grow up a lot more privileged than he was. And so I kind of wanted to, probe my family about that. And I ended up learning that, while my mom was, passing away or essentially about to die with a very aggressive form of cancer, she was worried about having to continue treatment for X amount of time because of the financial burden it was putting on our family. And I'm sitting there like, are you kidding me? So as someone's fighting for their life and to be able to stay with their 3 kids, husband and family, they're having to worry about whether they want to get more treatment because of money. Like it's literally the most inhumane thing you could ever think of to happen in that situation. Right.
Now,
And so
did she have health insurance, or what was the situation
we
there?
had health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
We had health insurance. I don't know how great it was. I'm sure it was like a solid plan probably, but nothing like gold plated or anything like that. But yeah, and even still for us, it was like a financial, I mean, just everything you think about, you have to go through all the scans and all the chemo and all the visits and everything. All that stuff adds up. And, a lot of times your insurance will pay for part of it, but, there's caps and there's all these different avenues you have to go through. So that's my story. And like I like to say, that it really doesn't make me unique. It makes me more common than anything, because there's so many people that go through this, so many families that have to go through this. And now with COVID, we're seeing people having to leave hospitals after fighting for their life with a $1 million bill they'll never be able to pay. It's so sick and gross and inhumane, but that's the system we live under in this country.
Big
And it's
time.
accepted. It's just accepted.
We just accept it. I mean, and I'll tip my hat here to the Michael Moore movie Sicko, because that's why I asked, like, well, did she have, what was her situation insurance wise? In that movie, he goes through these examples of all these people who are dealing with these situations they shouldn't have to deal with in the richest country in the world, and he goes, by the way, all these people have health insurance. This is just how messed up our system is. It is, of course, is beyond messed up that not everyone has health insurance because of our brutal system. But even the people that have it, this is how brutal our system is.
And then it's wild. It's like when you really step back and think about it, it's like you're paying these people monthly. You're paying these people, and then you finally need help after probably maybe not even asking or claiming anything in years, decades potentially, and they're like, "Oh no, we're just not gonna cover you."
Mm-hmm.
You're just not. What do you mean? I've been paying you for years, and you're not gonna help me when I like. That's like, it's just when you really step back and think about it, it's an unbelievable system, unbelievably corrupt. And if you leave healthcare for profit, there will always be people that are left out who can't afford it. And we're saying in this country that we're okay with that. We're okay with people not having enough money to get care when they need it in the richest country in the world. We're okay with that. That's what we're saying. And so when it came to force the vote, it's like, we need to say that even though you might hate Trump and the Republicans, okay, all good and fine. But do you know that there's people on the Democratic side who are saying that you don't deserve health care? As a citizen of this country, you don't deserve health care. There's people in the halls of power on the Democratic side who believe that. And then who also in turn receive thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars from the very industries that profit from the very system that we have, that don't want that system to be changed, that don't want that system to be abolished. There's a conflict of interest there. It's obvious, yet no one will talk about it. No one will say it. And then we're going to act like they're on our side. No, they're not. They're not on my side. I don't care if it's red or blue or whatever. They're not on my side because they're okay with people dying who are poor and can't get help, who are dying preventable deaths. It's not okay with me.
Yeah, I mean, and it is still remarkable that we take it, like the collective we, the United States, takes something like that just for granted. Oh, well, that's just the way it is here. And you see people, especially people from other countries, where they're just, and this isn't lefties from other countries necessarily. This is all over the political, but they're just like, look, how do you guys find it acceptable that not everyone gets health care? That's just something you do. The rest of the industrialized world figured this out decades ago. Mm-hmm. What are you doing? Especially in a pandemic. Now, they're just like, I mean, people say this, and this is something people still say in regards to the pandemic and especially our healthcare situation during the pandemic. They say, man, the rest of the world is looking at the United States and laughing. And I think at this point, let me know what you think. I think that's false. I think at this point, they're looking on in concern and horror, going, what the fuck are you doing?
No, 100%. I think it's got past that point of like laughing. Now it's like, well, sheesh, like, are they actually going to get this under control? Or are they just going to let people keep dying and people keep going home with, having to bankrupt themselves because they got a virus that's like going around the entire world? I have to bankrupt myself because I contracted that. That makes no sense. Like, it doesn't make sense. And the thing that frustrates me is people in this country live in such a bubble that a lot of people will still argue. And I talk to a lot of people that are apolitical. And when I bring up healthcare, the main thing I get, it's like, well, I don't know if that's the right system. That's kind of sounds like socialism. I don't know what the right system is, so don't ask me that. But that's not right. So you don't have a solution, but I have something that the rest of the world does. But you're telling me that's not right. That's not the right system to use. Like, it's utterly so frustrating that we have that hubris, like you're talking about, where we simply think that everything we do is right. Everything we do is the best, and everything we do, like, it's just the way it is. We can't change it. We can't possibly change it. But then we act like as Americans, we're all tough and we love our freedom and we love this and we love that. And America's the best. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just the mental gymnastics we go through here just to get basic services it's incredible.
I know. Well, let me ask you this. Do you feel like that's evolving at all? Because I think that, first of all, the statistics are out there that more people are ready for Medicare for all than ever before. And I used to hear a lot of those cliches where, well, you can't get the type of care in those places that you can get here, which is bullshit. And also, like, well, they don't have the same level of services that we do, which is also bullshit.
Right.
And maybe this is me being guilty of being in my own bubble, which I think, we all are to an extent. It's nature, but I feel like there is less of that in society now than there was, say, 10 years ago. Would you agree with that? Or?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I should have put the caveat. A lot of the people I'm talking to went to Northwestern with me. So, part of some, at least, the percentile of elites, right? Or went to an elite institution, or people in the NFL who make a lot of money. You know what I mean? So, like, when I talk to people that are actually like people from my hometown, or like workers, or just people that are, working class, that sentiment is a lot different. They're much more receptive to, that message. Like, they understand it because they go through the system. They have seen the, ills of that very system that we're trying to dismantle. And so they're ready to hear something else, to hear, how can we change this so this doesn't have to happen to me or someone else I love, or just anyone that I know.
So we both spent our collegiate years in the Midwest. You went to Northwestern. I went to Indiana University.
Okay.
So yeah. Do you guys in IU play? Did you guys play IU?
We played them one time because they're on like the other side of the division of the Big Ten. But we did play them one time.
Who won? Do you remember?
And we won, so I got bragging rights on you, Ron.
Nice. No, man, IU. So IU has always typically struggled in football. I think, I'm sure they've had other folks go to the NFL, so I can't. But the last NFL player I remember from IU would have been Randall Antoine Randall.
Yeah, they have. I'm trying to think of any big name players from IU. I know our center this year, he went to IU.
Oh, really?
He's a year older than me, I think.
Okay.
And he's from Chicago as well. But he went to IU. But yeah, I don't think they have a whole lot of big name players, but they do definitely have some, like Tevin Campbell. He's a running back. He's a very good running back. He went to IU too. He was there when I was a freshman, I think. So he's like 3 years older than me. But they've got some players. They're getting a lot better.
This year was huge, man. And they blew it in their bowl game. I think they just, for whatever reason, just didn't have it together. Their bowl game was against Ole Miss, and I feel like they were a better team than that bowl game showed, in my opinion, because I did get to catch some of their games. And yeah, they're the type of team, like, you're hoping that they get into a bowl. You're hoping for like a 6-win season. And whenever they do, like, that's already a win. And when I went there, because I'm a little older than you, when I went there, they were starting to like turn the program around, and they had this guy, his name was Coach Hep, and they were starting to kind of really turn the program around. And then he died. It was actually kind of tragic. He had some brain cancer and it killed him. And then it was like, gee, the program was starting to turn around, and now it's not anymore. But now they've started to kind of be on the up again. But yeah, football was never really their thing. But then I did see two double A NCAA soccer championships when I was a student. I did see, yeah. I mean, I got to. Oh man, it was a good. I mean, I enjoy football, soccer, and they won. I mean, they were really freaking good, and not a ton of students went to the games, but if you wanted to go, I think it was like $1 with your student ID or something like that. So it was great, man. We had like our own cheers. I don't remember any of them at this point, but I did see two NCAA championships. I always start with that. And then they're like, oh, what did you, basketball, Bobby Knight? And I'm like, dude, I'm not that old. But I saw.
Yeah, that's a while ago.
Yeah, a while ago. But I saw some soccer championships. That's what I saw. And I think they dominate in swimming too. I never got to watch any of that. But
Northwestern's similar. We had like our lax team. We have a women's lax team who's very good, like national title contenders. And then trying to think of other teams. Like our soccer team's pretty good. Our field hockey team's good. A lot of times you get that. They don't get any attention, but they work their ass off. I saw that just being an athlete and being around them. So props to NU, the non-revenue NU sports as well.
Nice. What'd you study?
So I studied economics. I had a minor in like business. We didn't have a business major. We had like a business kind of minor. And I actually minored in French as well.
Oh, cool. Why?
I try to diversify myself a little bit. What'd you say?
What interests you in that? If you don't mind, like, why French? Is there like
I did it in middle school. Like we had to pick between French and Spanish, and like everyone was picking Spanish. So I was like, I'll just try French. Okay. And I just really loved it. And learning a foreign language to me is like something we don't really do here as Americans, but pretty much everywhere around the world, a lot of them learn English, but a lot of them learn, especially in Europe, learn a lot of the languages of the kind of like bordering countries as well. So I think it's fun,
I agree.
To be able to speak another language and stuff like that.
No, I speak Italian, and like for me, and I have a similar, thoughts to you where, I did an internship in college, and I did it in Nashville, Tennessee, and I lived in a youth hostel for a couple, but it was actually a lot of fun. But so I lived at this youth hostel, like right near the Rock Block in Nashville, and kind of walking distance to downtown when you're 21 and drunk all the time and don't give a shit. And like, so it was a great time, but there were so many international people that also lived there or would stay there for extended periods of time. And it was kind of embarrassing that they were all fluent in all these languages, and I wasn't fluent in anything. And yeah, like it was kind of, and they explained to me, they're like, Ron, we're not any smarter than you. We just grew up with this. We were watching movies in your language when we were 5. Yeah. You weren't watching movies in our language when you were 5. And I'm like, man, that is such a bummer. So I studied Italian. I didn't earn a minor or anything like that, but I studied it for the language requirement because I really wanted to make the effort, and I have family over there. And then I'll go in waves, man, where I'll get. Do you still use it? Like, do you keep it up?
Yeah, I try and practice by myself. Like, I try and watch some. And what's nice is like Netflix now has a lot more of like other language shows that are really good. And so like there's this one right now that I'm watching called Lupin, and it's really good. It's like really good, and it's in French, so I can like watch it in French, have the subtitles, practice, and that's the hardest part is like you said, one, they learn it when they're younger, and they watch a lot of film, they listen to a lot of like American music, and it's just they hear it a lot. And that's when it comes to foreign language, it's all about repetition and practice. And it's hard to get that here because you can go 12 hours drive away and it's still English. Like you can't do that in Europe, you know what I mean? Like it's all right there, and you can hear it and experience a lot more other languages. So it's a little bit easier for them. And like you said, they start at a younger age than we do.
It's, I do similar things where, and I used to be better at it. It's actually, this can tie it back to like GameStop. I do miss the good independent video shop that used to kind of be a thing. And there was this really cool one in Bloomington, and they had a really cool like foreign film section. So I would just go and get all these just random obscure Italian movies and just watch them. And I do subtitles too. Do you find that still helps? I know some people, they're like, if you do the subtitles, it ruins it because you're just reading. But I feel like you're still listening, though.
Yeah, no,
it's like a study guide.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting because, like, I think the hardest part for me in my mind is like when I try and translate from like English to French or vice versa. A lot of times I think of it like very literally, and it doesn't literally translate in a lot of other languages. So I'll see like, wait, what did they just say? That's how it came out in English. Like, wait, that it kind of, the ordering, it's hard to explain, but the ordering of the language is a little different and it's not as exact. You know what I mean? So that helps me like be like, okay, that's how you say that phrase. This phrase in English, it does not literally translate in French every single word. They phrase it a little different. So like it helps me in that sense. I really like it, and I think what I'm gonna do is watch it all the way through with the subtitles, and then go back because I know what's going on, and then watch it without the subtitles.
Oh,
And
there
so
you go.
yeah, and so that's a good way.
That's
Like you said, it's a
smart.
study guide. It's a study guide.
No, that is, man. Now you're lighting a spark under me to kind of match that prowess, man. Because
Get back into it.
no, I got to. There was this cool. I want to say it was HBO, but don't quote me. But there was this series called My Brilliant Friend, and it's based on a book by this author who is remaining anonymous. They wrote under a pseudonym, so no one actually knows who the author is. But they made a series out of it, and it takes place in Napoli, and it's I enjoyed it a lot. And yeah, we would watch it in Italian, but there'd be like the subtitles, and that would kind of help me. And now I think, oh, I got to go watch that. I feel like I got to do it twice though. Again, like I got to watch it again with the subtitles because it's been a hot minute since it ended, and then watch it again after that without. And I'll feel like I'm doing something productive, even though it's like, well, you're just rewatching stuff. But that's a clever idea, man. I'm going to take it too, man. That's awesome. Do you have any exercise tips? No, I'm just kidding. It's like that. Those are good language tips. Let's keep doing this. But yeah, man. Did you ever get to the point where you were dreaming in it in French?
I think that happened a few times.
No, if you think it did, it probably did.
Like consistent, unfortunately. But it did happen a few times, and I was like, "Whoa, shit, that's really cool."
That's how you know. That's how you know you're getting good.
Yeah.
That's how you know. I mean, they say that they're like the two big things are when you can make somebody laugh, like when you can communicate humor in a language, which as a comedian, Justin, I try that all the time and fail miserably most of the time. Like I tried to be funny in Italian a week ago, and it totally fell flat. Like so I live in San Pedro, which is Little Italy here in LA. Okay. So in the farmers market, people will speak it. So I get like a solid 30 seconds of practice once a week. And but I tried to make this joke. So there's this lady I always buy I buy carrots from typically. So I remembered carote, like she helped me remember. But I tried to make a joke because my wife happened to have all the money, because we always just take cash at the farmer's market, and one of us just grabs it, and my wife just grabbed it. And I tried to make a joke where I was just like, she has the money, I can't, and it didn't translate. It didn't translate.
It didn't.
I was giving her information. Like she just thought I would make her know. Yeah. Like when she's like, I can clearly see she has dollar bill and you don't. I know who has the money.
Yeah,
but
that's the tough part though. It's like, one, you have to like be up to date, and that's hard because like you think about when we're laughing about stuff. One, a lot of it's topical, or it's like there's a certain cadence to it, and there's a certain just like slang. A lot of times it's slang. And that's another thing about like the American system when we're learning like a foreign language, is we learn it so literally and so academic. And so when you actually go and they're speaking in more like, just slang, like colloquial terms, it's hard to pick up on that because that's not how you learned. I learned it the academic way. And so that's why you really have to be immersed in the society. And I'm sure it's tough, like trying to, like you said, tell a joke when you aren't kind of immersed in that culture and society all the time.
I had moments, man, but that's the big thing when you can make someone laugh or when you dream. And I've had moments of each. I mean, there was another time, like when my cousins would come over to the US, or if I would go over there, I would start getting good because I was using it every day.
Yep.
I never reached fluency. I hope to someday, but I'm conversational, and I was getting okay. And one time I really nailed it, man, and timing kind of helped me. But so none of my family knows Italian. I'm the only one. So sometimes it's fun because I'll say things and that's what I'm saying. And except for my Italian relatives. So like we kind of will develop some inside jokes, whatever. And one of my relatives was meeting my mom for the first time. My mom's this small, loud Italian lady. And so I go, this is my mom. She's really sweet, but she's very loud. And then my mom goes, I'm so excited to meet you. And they just start laughing, and she didn't know why.
Okay. Nice. There you go. Perfect.
I made them laugh. And that was, I kind of feel like my mom helped unintentionally, but I'll take it. It's a victory.
There you go. It's good. You just gotta keep practicing, keep going. You'll get there.
How long have you been playing in the NFL now? How long's it been for you?
This will next year be my 4th year, so I've completed 3 years.
Nice. Has it been with the Chargers or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Since 2018.
Nice. So I should know this because I live here, but how long have they actually been in LA?
I think when I first got there was their either 2nd or 3rd year, so this will probably be like year 5. But we just moved into the new stadium in Inglewood. This past year was the first year in that, and I think they had played 3 or 4 years in where the Galaxy play in Carson.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I guess they've been in LA longer than I realized. I thought it had only been like 2 to 3 years, like now.
Yeah. This will be I want to say the 5th year, probably.
Okay.
5th year. Yeah. I think we're definitely still working. I mean, LA is tough. The market's tough because there's so much going on. There's so many teams. You got Hollywood. You just got everything,
When everyone's a transplant, man. I mean, everybody's a transplant, so they already have their hometown teams.
Exactly.
But it's also so big.
Right. It's huge. And like the Raiders just have a huge, I know they moved to Vegas, but because they were just a California team throughout pretty much their whole history, there's a lot of Raiders fans. Like the Rams were here, then went to St. Louis, then came back. So they have a solid stranglehold. But really, when they went to the Super Bowl, like they weren't even filling they were playing at the Coliseum. I think they weren't filling that, even their Super Bowl.
Really?
Yeah. So it's
because they're also a storied franchise too, because it's like they have that like they were the bad guys of the league back in the 70s and stuff. So they had people all over the country that kind of migrated to that team that may have nothing to do with Oakland, but they like the team. That's interesting.
Exactly.
Well, so when I lived in Seattle, when the MLS team, the Sounders, came to town, and Seattle had an MLS team, and it was pretty successful. And I think part of that reason was because, Seattle is also a lot of transplants, not quite to LA's level, obviously, but a lot of transplants. So everybody already has their baseball team. Everybody already has their football team, but MLS, well, not a lot of people have an MLS team. I mean, unless you're like Chicago or New York, there's a good chance you don't. So it kind of gave everybody something to agree on. It's we're all going to be watching different screens when it's football or baseball or hockey, even, although at the time they didn't have an NHL team. But when it's Sounders, we're all united. We're all on board that we like the Sounders and we like our chants and stuff. But in a place like LA, again, it's just so big that there's not really a common city identity anyway. And you're trying to come as a football team where it's like people, they already got their football teams.
Right. Yeah, it's tough. We're definitely trying to like you said, break into the market. but we have to. It comes down to winning, that's what'll help. Is if you have a team, you feel like your city, or even if you're not from here, but you feel like your city is, going to be in the playoffs or potentially make it to the Super Bowl, that kind of galvanizes that support. And it might take a while. Like a lot of these teams, like you said, like it takes a while to build a fan base. Like when you look at the Seahawks and some of these other teams, the Niners, like they've been there so long that they've kind of built the base up over years and years and years. And so it'll take some time, but I'm excited. We definitely get a lot of good interaction. And what I love about it is a lot of the fans here are, people of color, whether it's like, Latino, just Latinx, or, you have all types of people, like, LA, you have all types of people here. And so that's nice too, especially when we were at StubHub, where the Galaxy used to play. Like there just be a lot of people of color. It's like nice to see, it's like, damn, okay. Like it's nice to see a very diverse fan base. And you can do that in LA because it's just a very diverse city.
So I used to watch the NFL a lot more than I currently do. And what kind of pushed me away from it a little bit is, first of all, I'm a big hockey guy, and I gave myself an NHL subscription for my birthday one year, and then that just became my reoccurring birthday gift. So that's just where I put a lot of my my energy. But also, and I'm sure you remember this, I forget what game it was, but it was where an announcer just said, and he was telling the truth, but it just got to the point where you're just like, this is a little ridiculous, where he just goes, well, we don't know what a catch is.
Oh, man.
You remember that?
That was probably the Lions game with maybe Calvin Johnson, because my dad is a huge Lions fan. Like I said, he's from Detroit, but he moved to Chicago when he was 18, and he always would listen to the sports talk radio. I don't know. It's like self-torture.
He never switched over to the Bears.
He never switched over to the Bears. And so when the Lions played the Bears, and he always would get super hyped because he just wanted to hear them talking about, how the Lions beat them. Like, I don't know. He kind of enjoyed that, I think. And they threw, like, Calvin Johnson scored a touchdown at the end of the game, and he, like, caught the ball in the end zone and then, like, on his butt, and had the ball in one hand. And as he flipped over, put the ball on the ground and stood up. And they said he didn't complete the process of a catch. And so they ruled the touchdown didn't count. And it was like, everyone was talking about it. And it was like, this is so obviously just a catch, right? And so I think I remember that, like, vividly. That was a big moment. I think the rules have gotten a little bit clearer on that. So it's a little bit better. But, the rules change all the time. So
yeah,
you just gotta go with the flow, man. A lot of times there'll be stuff that they call that, like, people on our sideline don't, like, we didn't even know that's a rule. There's like thousands of rules, man. There's so many rules. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
No, like, for real, like, we're like, that's a rule.
That's a thing?
Yeah.
I remember one time I was watching a game where the coach threw a challenge flag. This was when they, like, brought the challenge in. And the referee was like, you can't challenge that. And the coach was like, yes, I can. And so the referee, which I guess this referee didn't know that, like, sound bites on morning radio are totally a thing, and you just gave everybody in morning radio a big gift for Monday morning. But he goes, I'm not sure if you can challenge this, so I'm going to look it up. He looks it up. And he can. Like, the coach was right, so they accepted but it's like, yeah, man, for me, I get it. Like it is a game of inches. It is a game of, I understand all that. And I love the game. I think it's a beautiful game. And obviously you do too. But sometimes I'm just like, God, geez, let's just play. Like, can we, I feel like we're a year away from, like, you guys are going to start drafting attorneys to, like, just like negotiate every play. And do you feel that way at all, or am I being too demanding?
Think, like, from the outside looking in, I could definitely see how you see that. Like, when you're playing, it's like the rule changes are so small, like, from year to year, that you kind of just get used to it. A lot of times it's not like one huge new rule. I think, like, with targeting, that was kind of like the last time there was like this huge new rule that everyone like hated for like a year or two, and then everyone just was like, okay, fine, like it's a part of the game. And that was a good rule because it does protect us a lot better as opposed to like when you look at the 80s and people are just like launching head first and just smacking heads and just getting concussed and all that type of stuff. The game is a lot safer now than it used to be.
They used to be able to just body slam each other.
Oh, you could do
they used to be able to just pick a person up and drop them on their head. And it's like, what the?
Yeah, anything.
That's not tackling somebody.
Like, it was no holds barred. Like clotheslines, like just anything you could think of. 70s, 80s, like that was football.
Yeah, I mean that was nuts. Yeah, and then they started like reeling it into, and I agree that is good because it's like, you know, you can totally tackle.
Basketball,
oh really?
Too. Yeah, like if you look at the like old Michael Jordan highlights versus like the Bad Boy Pistons, like dude was going up, literally getting clotheslined, and it was just like, oh, it's just a foul. Like now, of course, you get ejected, like and suspended, but before it's like, oh, it's just a foul. It's a hard foul. And it is just keep going. Like it's a lot different of a game. But we live in a different society too, I think. A lot of people, I mean, it's just people see that as just too violent. And obviously the sport is violent. But like basketball's got a lot less violent, and football too. See, although our military industrial complex hasn't got any less violent, but no, I guess we're just not going to talk about that.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? You know, for basketball, for me, I prefer college basketball just as somebody watching it because I feel like in the NBA they are just so good, and they're just, I mean, they're just like human gladiators.
Yeah,
and they're just, I feel like traveling is just not called. And
no, not really. Not
yeah, I don't know, man. Like I just can't. When somebody dunks a ball starting at the foul line and they never dribble, I mean, I don't know. Like, I just can't. Like, I'd rather see college where they're actually working in offense. And you know what I mean? Like, do you feel that way too or no?
Well, so for me, like, I see that viewpoint. And a lot of people that I played basketball all throughout high school. So I've always been a huge basketball fan. And for me, the reason I do love the NBA more is the skill level. For me, like when I see, and a lot of people, it looks so easy because they're all so good, like you said.
Right.
But like the skill level, like when I watch like someone like LeBron or like Damian Lillard, like the shit they do is literally unbelievable. But they do it so often that I think people kind of take it for granted. And like college is, like you said, it's much more like the player. When you get a whole team of players, like they're not nearly as skilled. So you have to play much more of like a team game. There's not going to be one or two guys that are just, it's not going to be LeBron and Anthony Davis scoring 80 points. And then like everyone else kind of rounding it out with like 30 points, right? Like college basketball is a lot more equitable. And like the NBA, because the season's so long, like a lot of times during the regular season, like they really won't be trying that hard. You know what I mean? Like they won't be playing defense. But like college, it's like every game they're like, we're playing defense. Like there's only 30 games. Like those games are going to be like seed you for the tournament. And there's a lot of teams that don't even make the tournament. And so it's like, it's just a very different game fundamentally. And I think football's a little less of there's a little bit less of a separation between like college football and like the game of college football and the game of like NFL than the NBA and NCAA basketball. But I think that I've heard a lot of people say they like college basketball for that exact reason. And I take that and I grant it. That's why I always say, well, this is why I love the NBA. Mm-hmm. And I think it's an honest disagreement. It's not really a disagreement, it's just a preference. But yeah, I mean, I like watching both. And it sucked when March Madness got canceled last year. Because that's like the best time to watch college basketball, you know? Even if you haven't really kept up with it, it's super fun to watch March Madness.
Oh, it's a blast, man. And every single year from probably the age of 18 to current, I'm always like, I'm going to follow it this year and I'm going to fill out a bracket and it's going to be a good bracket. And then it's March 1st and I'm like, I caught like 2 games. I got 2 games like at an alumni event I showed up to. Oh, where'd you go? I lost you for a second.
Oh, my bad.
I think
Sorry.
you're back. But
Yeah, no, it's funny. The thing about the brackets is similar to like fantasy football is that a lot of times the people that don't know like anything about basketball or about the game or about any teams, they end up doing the best. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, what the like a lot of times in fantasy football, it'll be someone's like girlfriend who didn't even really want to play, but they need an extra person who like wins the league, you know, because it's just like a lot of that stuff just comes down to luck and chance. And, you know, everyone likes to feel like they have power and control, but a lot of times, especially with sports, like you never know.
This might be an insanely goofy question, but since it came up organically, do you guys, being NFL players, do you guys ever actually do fantasy football yourselves?
I think there might be a few guys, but like, no,
really?
Yeah. I think I've heard of a few people doing it, but I personally don't do it. And a lot of, I think, and there's actually rules against doing it for more than like $200 or something like that.
Well, yeah, because you'd be like, I got to do shitty today, or else my thing's not going to work out.
Exactly. There's and obviously like that wouldn't. Trust me, like as hard as it is to stay in the NFL and excel, there's not going to be a lot of people out there doing shitty because of fantasy football.
No, of course.
But you think so though? You think that might be an issue?
So, I mean, the numbers would have to be insanely high. I mean, it'd be like you're playing for more than your salary, and you have some huge where you're like, if I throw this, it's gonna. So yeah, I mean, it's a pretty extraordinary circumstance to ever even wrap one's head around, but still kind of funny. Like that's just do I want to pick me up or no? I don't know. Like I mean, I had indigestion yesterday. I might go with the other guy.
Yeah, like one of my teammates, he did it this year. He did it as a part of like he like streams and he has like a whole community on Twitch, and so he like did a league with some of his followers or whatever. And it was funny because like the very first person obviously picked him first. So like he's literally playing. There was times like where he was on fantasy playing against himself, like his literal self and his production and his, you know, his numbers that he would come up with that game. So it's like, yeah, I'm playing against myself in fantasy, but I am myself like in real life, obviously. And so it's like, it's just a weird, like you said, it's a weird dynamic, but it's fun though. I think fantasy football is fun. It's really good with engagement. Like a lot of people, even if they're not like huge football fans or fans of a specific team, they like having their own team of players and who they can root for. So it definitely helps grow the game.
So let's bring it back to, happenings in the world and your activism. You said earlier that you got into, lefty spaces. Unpack that for me. I mean, when we brought up the Medicare for All component, like what else, what kind of like brought you into that world and what other things really just captured you as very important?
For me, the 2016 election, so I was 20 and I was in college, and that was just huge for me. Like I had literally never paid attention to politics before that. Never. I grew up in like a liberal household, but like my parents, I can't like the one political memory I remember is Obama getting elected in 2008. Like that's the only like political memory I had up until the 2016 election. And then I remember like we would have conversations just in like the locker room and stuff, and just around campus about like the election and stuff. So I wanted to get more educated on it, just because I hate talking about stuff when I truly like don't know what I'm talking about. If I'm not knowledgeable on the topic, I don't feel like I can actually lend my voice to it. And so that's why I wanted to do like a lot more research. And I remember I started watching probably like CNN or MSNBC or something. And of course, the entire time they were just talking about Trump, like Trump this, Trump that, like literally no real information, right? Like if I'm trying to learn about politics. And so that's when I went on YouTube, and funny enough, I started watching TYT because I found them and they were like this huge, like, they called themselves progressives and like They were advocating for just a more equitable society. And I'm like, I think this is like, I can find a home for myself here because I agree with a lot of the stuff they're talking about. And they had long segments on like like Hillary Clinton and just about policies. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. Like, and when I get interested in something, I kind of just deep dive into it. And so I just remember I started looking at other channels. That's where I first found Jimmy on Aggressive Progressives, Kyle Kalinske with Secular Talk, and like the Rational National, Humanist Report, just like lefty YouTube channels. And I just kind of immersed myself in it. And yeah, that's kind of where it all started. And I really didn't start like talking kind of like publicly, like with my Twitter and everything until 2020, early 2020. So I did a lot of learning before I started talking about this stuff.
So you are, using your platform to really spread these messages. Have you gotten any pushback as of yet? Like, has it positive or negative?
I've gotten a lot of positive feedback. I tried to do a lot of just like action stuff with my team, like whether it's going to community events, whether it's like starting like fund, like we started a rent relief fund for LA, which is gonna go out, and we work through a foundation who does who does rent relief for like low income communities in the LA area, mostly Black and brown communities. So that's something we did. Like I started getting immersed in it. And another thing we did was we were supposed to have a scrimmage in the preseason, right in the midst of the George Floyd, whatever, everything that was going on with George Floyd and the protests. And I remember like 2 days before, or maybe even a day before we were supposed to scrimmage, the NBA, that's when they skipped the playoff game. I think when the Bucks like basically went on strike for a game. And I was like, holy like this is huge. Like this can make waves. Like this is how this can start something. And so I started talking to a lot of my teammates and found out that a lot of them felt the same way. And so we actually, instead of doing that scrimmage, we took the whole day and on a national audience on NFL Network, which was supposed to be, was supposed to cover our game. Instead of playing the game, we actually stood in front of cameras and talked about this stuff and tried to, raise the consciousness of people, like just stuff like that. And it's like, and I expected all this pushback, but I think it's tough when people see that you're fighting for stuff that's right, that's actually fighting for common people. And like I said, a lot of us come from these communities that are failures of the system that we live under. And so it's really interesting to be in like an NFL locker room, because obviously you're in the top percentile of income earners year to year in the country, right? But a lot of us come from these communities where we didn't have anything, where football was a lot of people's only option. So it's an interesting dichotomy, and I think the NFL and NFL teams are starting to understand that, us players, we're not just going to stay silent. Like if we care about something, we're going to speak out. And it's really important when the top players like Patrick Mahomes, like Deshaun Watson, like Michael Thomas, who have guaranteed contracts, who are the face of their franchises, to speak out, because then they have leverage. There's no way that their team is going to cut Patrick Mahomes because he talks about Black Lives Matter or talks about things that, these policies or politician or whatever. They have that leverage. And that's why the NBA was so important, because they have probably the most leverage, maybe other than hockey, or not hockey, the MLB, because all their contracts are guaranteed. So as soon as they sign that contract, their 4 years or whatever salary that they get is guaranteed. So even if they get cut, that team still has to pay them money, pay them all their contract money. See, the NFL is different. Like, I don't have any guarantees in my contract. So if I get cut tomorrow, even if I'm slated to make X amount of dollars over my 4-year contract, they don't owe me shit. You see what I'm saying? So that's why the atmosphere is where you don't see a lot of people speaking out, because there's little job security in the NFL, and a lot of people I've been playing football since I was 8. A lot of people have been playing football since we were young, and a lot of people, this was their only way out. So a lot of people aren't gonna sacrifice. If you're a first, second, third year guy with no guarantees, you're not gonna sacrifice your whole career because you saw what happened to Kaepernick, right? and that is a real reality for a lot of people. But at the end of the day, like for me, the decision was I know so much, and because I was involved in these lefty spaces, I know so much about the failures of our system and where we need to go, and I need to be using my platform to push for that. Because if I wait 5-6 years for my career to be over, and then I could have been making an impact those, that 5 or 6 or 7 years, and when I had the platform to do it, I think I would definitely, that would be something I would regret for the rest of my life. So I wasn't going to let that happen. And I'm hoping that this whole move, like Black Lives Matter, especially because that hits home for a lot of us players, that can start to, percolate in a lot of our minds and start the process of us coming together and speaking out more for the things that we care about.
That's really powerful, man. And that's freaking awesome. Well, have you thought about what you might do next when you're, because I mean, the NFL, it's only so long people can do that.
Sure.
And, so I mean, have you thought about like, well, what's going to be next for me whenever that day comes?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely thought about it. I don't think I'm 100% sure on anything yet. I don't even know how much longer I'll play. Like football is one of those things where, I mean, it can all end in a day. You could bust your knee up and then that's the end, So it's kind of a weird dynamic where I'm not exactly sure where the end would be. And, I don't want to plan for something if the end is 4 or 5 years from now. How can I plan right now for what I'm going to do then?
Sure.
But I have some ideas for sure. A lot of people like to ask me if I'm going to run for office. And I'm like, I don't know.
Some people in the chat have already been recommending it.
Yeah, I'm not sure really. And if I did, it probably wouldn't be for a while, just because I don't like to inhabit the spaces of these people, like these craven people. And it's like I do see that when you go there, it does feel like it changes people to a certain extent, just being in that bubble. Obviously, if I went there, that would be I'm running on no, that's not what I would do, right? I'm running on the fact that I would go there and I would represent the people that put me there, and I'm not there to make friends. I would be 100% willing to call out anybody who's denying people healthcare. Like I don't care what party you're in, you know what I mean? Like you're just as bad as them if they're denying people healthcare, and so are you. You know what I mean? But I like to be more on the activism side. I love organizing and just platforming other people who I think don't have a voice and should have a larger voice. And that's probably where I would start.
Right on, man. Yeah, I mean, it takes, I've had some peeks under the hood of folks who have run for office, and I'm sure you have as well. And it's
a gargantuan effort, man.
It really is. And I know people who have looked me in the eye, and I know they're not lying when they say to me, look, Ron, it was the worst experience of my life. I mean, it can be really freaking brutal. But, I'm sure that it is still in the back of your head a little bit, because you're probably also thinking like, gee, I'm an NFL player, and, you'd make a fuck of a great mayor. I mean, I especially our current guy.
I know
we gotta get rid of him. So.
we got to get rid of all of the city council, almost maybe 90%.
Yeah,
I've been in on some of those meetings, and it's like, I don't know. What happens at the national level definitely happens at local levels as well. Let's just say.
Yeah, in a place like LA, especially.
Yeah, and it's like I think I was at the last city council meeting like a few weeks ago, and I learned that they were on like break or whatever for like a month and a half, like in the middle of this huge, like of everything falling apart. They're just at home, like, you know what I mean? It's unreal. It's unreal, but we'll see, man. I definitely won't rule it out. I think that's something, if I did, I think it would make an impact, and I would definitely be all out fighting for, the people that need help the most. And I think that's what someone like myself, that's the best thing I could do is like I said, platform issues and solutions that are going to help communities that like my dad came from, like my mom and her parents came from in Mississippi and in the city of Chicago. Like these are people that I know and love, and they're good, decent people that work really freaking hard you know, really hard to just survive and have a family and all these things. And it shouldn't be that hard for them in this country. Like, it just shouldn't. And I know that. And I think if we can get more people to see that the solutions are not that hard, they're not radical, they're not pie in the sky, they're decisions. It's decisions that people make. It's a decision for Joe Biden to, instead of taking Bernie's Medicare expansion plan in his COVID relief bill, to subsidize Cobra to the tune of probably hundreds of billions of dollars. That's a decision he's making. Like we are that close to actually having equitable society in this country. People in power making the right decisions, signing bills into law that are going to actually help people. Like, that's how close we are. And if we just need more people pushing that message and letting normal Americans understand, and helping them to understand that these things are not that far away and they're not hard to do. And we've been so propagandized, obviously, with the media in this country, that people just don't see that as a possibility. They just don't see it. And I think the perfect example of that is Joe Biden winning in states where he didn't even have campaign offices, and the exit polls saying that those people want Medicare for all. You're like, how? We're talking about people that are, you know, disillusioned or even have some type of delusion, right? Like, we think of like right-wingers, Republicans, they're voting against their own interests. Well, why are you voting for Joe Biden if you want Medicare for all and he said he's going to veto it? Why are you voting for him? Well, it's the media, right? And so I think we just have to reach more people. And that's what I want to do, is I want to help reach more people so we can actually have numbers. We need numbers. We need people to rise up together and demand these things. And once we start demanding these things, we'll start getting these things.
Right on, man. Well, thanks so much for coming on and talking to me today. I really appreciate it, dude.
Man.
And
Big
thanks
fan,
so much.
Ron.
I appreciate it. Well, back at
you.
Cheers, buddy. Well, back at you. And yeah, thanks so much for doing what you do. I think it's really awesome. And yeah, best wishes for the off season.
Yeah,
you're
try and enjoy it.
Well, I had to look it up. I'm like, he's not in the Super Bowl, is he?
Oh, man,
I haven't been paying attention, but I saw the stuff where they said like Brady made it again. I guess just wherever he goes,
10th,
they go to
Super Bowl. Insane.
It's pretty nuts. Like, what the hell?
And it's like,
I mean, I guess the guy's phenomenal. You can't take it from him.
You can't, man. He's unreal. Like, you can hate him as a person, you can hate his politics, all good and fine. The dude is an unbelievable football player and a great leader. It's like, if you can get people like that to switch their politics, you know, we can push these things forward. You know, like, we need leaders like that. You know, like Mahomes, like people with huge voices who know how to lead. It's tough to lead a football team, and if you can do that, man, you can lead any group of people.
Absolutely, man. Well, thanks so much for doing this, and best wishes. And where can everyone follow you if they're not already? Where can they find you?
Yeah, on Twitter, I'm at J_manprime21.
Nice.
Yeah, you'll see me on there talking politics. If you want, I post some more football stuff on Instagram, JJPrime21. Yeah, mostly football stuff on there, and Twitter is mostly politics.
Right on. Thanks so much, buddy.
All right,
well.
Appreciate you,
Take
Ron.
care. Cheers, buddy.
Take care.
It's Justin Jackson. Justin Jackson, everybody. Render under the Caesar. They are claiming let me look at your super chat here. So you're saying that they're gonna scare us about a white supremacy attack, and then they're gonna bail out the hedge funds. If they bail out these hedge fund people, they're gonna distract us with something. I don't know what it's gonna be yet, but should they do that, they're gonna distract us with something. Let's see. Justin and Ron, Chip says, do you know if the Super Bowl stadium is going to be left empty this year? I guess it depends on where they're playing, but I'd imagine so. And then some of you guys are saying I should write Justin a theme song. I totally would. If he wants me to, I totally will. But guys, thank you so much. That has been today's episode. Patreon.com/Ron Placone. Help keep this show on the air. If you are on stable ground for a Give What You Can level, you get an exclusive patron stream once a week where I respond directly to the patrons, and the replay is only available on Patreon. You get a Patreon Zoom once a week. I do a Zoom show just for patrons. We chat it up. I do some jokes, do some songs. It's a blast. And I will make you your own theme song. If you're one of my patrons, I'll make you your own theme song if you want. You got to request it and tell me what you want in it, but I'll make your own theme song. And that's all for a give what you can level. Whatever level you're comfortable with, that's all it is. I don't have a tiered Patreon. It's just one tier, and it's just give what you can. Guys, Get Your News On with Ron will officially be back on Monday. And I think Monday is we're going to be talking to Tara Reid. So I'm looking forward to talking to her. Got a lot of questions. So we're going to be talking to Tara Reid on Monday. I'm really looking forward to that episode. And in the meantime, you guys know the drill. Follow Justin on Twitter, JManPrime21 on Twitter. And of course, you can see him in all my retweets as well. His tweets are awesome. His tweets are what did the kids say? His tweets are fire. But anyway, you guys, she is on the couch. That makes me feel good. She's not Lucy. She's not looking up. She's taking a nap. She's not looking up, but that's okay. Lucy says meow. I say peace. Peace.